It's little known about Somalia is the nation of poets. You know, this is a fact in Somalia that this is an entire country made up of a lot of either critics of poets or producers of poetry. And so you got like every household might produce a poet. And so it's really tough to have a position as a poet in this country. And I don't mean poetry in the way that Western minds think of poetry, like the privileged, elitist kind of poetry that you know about. We're talking about poetry that is in life. Poetry is not clean and goody-goody in Somalia. It's like, you know what I mean? Like the guy with the gun, the most violent man could be the illest poet in the country. It doesn't have any distinction from life as we live it. You know, that's how we understand poetry is, you know what I mean? It's the closest thing to like true rap. There are many stories of living in Mogadishu, and you know, I want people to understand that it's not just my story, that the way that I wrote, although from a personal standpoint, is everybody's stories. You know what I mean? It's not special that I went through these things. I mean, you heard about the grenade issue, the incident. You heard about my friends getting killed in front of me. These are all real stories, and I've seen it. I've dealt with it and lived it. But the only thing that's special is I wrote about it. I've got friends who went through 10 times more than I did, who just haven't had the, you know what I mean, like the gift to write those scenarios. So I always want to pay homage to those who went through it with me. The way that people who came up in the same experiences as I came up and see my music is that of like relief. They look at my music as like, okay, finally somebody could tell them how we feel, tell them the truth. And it's like a great thing, man. This older gentleman came up to me once, and he said, he was a Somali who had been through the war, and he's a professor. And he said to me, man, you know, I just want to say thank you on behalf of Somali people, he said, for conducting mass therapy for our people through your music. That's really how it started. It started for me as a personal therapy, and then like it extended itself out to an entire people who have been through these same experiences and so on. Culturally, the Somali people are very artistic, but also they're very much like warriors. So they have the perfect mix as far as their lineage goes between poetry and warriorism and art. This is the Somali. When you know a Somali very well, you know them to be articulate and dangerous at the same time. In our history, you'll know Somalia had led the longest anti-colonial war in the history of Africa. So that tells you about the resilience of these people. There's never been a foreign power that's successfully able to occupy this nation ever in the history of, you know what I mean? Well, the Somalis and Ethiopians and the Eritreans, they really come from the same bloodline. These are the same. They're all Cushitic people, and we have different tribes. And the Somali is an ancient tribe that used to, in fact, be within Ethiopia. But they had moved away from Ethiopia because they were known as the warrior wing of the Ethiopians. So in the olden days, when Ethiopia would go to war or something like that, the Somalis were the spearhead fighters in that. And they kind of made their own nation. And so, you know what I mean? It explains a lot of the nature of Somalia right now.
Many memorable moments working with Heavy D, many. Like, I mean, we go back before making records. It's crazy, you know, I think about him every day.
And we're just playing, I'm just showing him mad, like, ill R&B shit, and we're just going crazy. So it ended up me being this R&B DJ.
Just because they're a cop doesn't make them a saint, doesn't make them a, you know, they're just people. And they make bad decisions sometimes. Sometimes they make great decisions.
Everybody's ate the mushrooms. We had a little sound check, and then I'm in my room trying to figure out like how I'm gonna get myself out of the drain.